So this is going to be episode 2. Obviously, quite still a new podcast, so we're still going through all like recording and stuff phases that will still be worked on. But today we're joined by Rory. Rory, you are a Hibs fan.
Yes, I am for my sins, absolutely.
We will we'll let everyone else know. Me and you have done this before, but the recording didn't go through.
I tell you what, it was brilliant. Because there's no evidence of it, we can now say it was the greatest podcast of all time. It's a shame it was lost. And we were both very, very smart and had brilliant opinions. We called every game right.
We actually did. I think the only one we didn't get right was Old Firm we didn't get right.
I wasn't sure. I was talking to someone just before the game, literally about an hour before the game, and I said I fancied Rangers. And then I was listening to the first half. And it sounded like it was all sorted. They'd clicked. They'd done it. But that's another case of Celtic starting really, really well and then falling apart. They just don't have the mentality.
So going on, we'll talk about the Old Firm to start off. That's probably the biggest shocker of the week. Well, not really shocker, biggest game of the week. So Wilfried Nancy is the Celtic manager. What's your thoughts?
Well, I mean, he's a Celtic manager as of the time of recording. I don't know by the time you post it if he will be.
Apparently, sacked at 8 o'clock. Someone had said to me he was getting sacked at 8 o'clock, but I don't know if that's
that says a lot. It says a lot, and I think it was clear from the start. It's funny because I'm one of these guys that I don't believe that managers are given enough time in general. I think that most managers should be getting way more time than they do. I've never been a grey out guy. Even a few weeks ago, there was a lot of people saying that kind of thing before we managed to get the win in the derby. I've never been that person. But it was so clear from the minute he got the job that he was not up to it, that he was not ready, and that he didn't understand what it meant to be a Celtic manager. Given it that, it's not all about winning, I'm seeing small improvements. It is. When you are at Celtic or Rangers, it is all about winning. And maybe fellow Hibs fans would be annoyed at me saying that, but it's the culture of those two clubs that if you are not winning, you're losing to the other side and you're failing. Obviously, this is the first season that they're not necessarily losing out to the other side; they're losing out to Hearts. But you can't accept that, and you can't have a manager come in midway through the season and try and start putting a system into place that's going to take a while to get used to. He's just, he doesn't have the whole summer to prepare the players and get the players that he wants in. So no, he's a disaster, and I'd be getting rid. Just cut your losses. It's going to cost them a huge amount of money to pay him off and get someone else in, but it's got to be done because it's not going to improve. And he's just, I almost feel for him. He's just not got the mentality. He does not understand. And I think he just looks like a deer in the headlights. It's an absolute nightmare for him. So, I think any Celtic fan I don't know a single person who wants to keep him.
No, I mean, even as looking at this from a Hibs perspective, even as a Hibs fan, you have to think, yeah, we want to keep him because he's doing such a brilliant job in a Hibs perspective, but in general, you have to think he's putting down Scottish football as a whole. Celtic bring in worldwide fans potentially. Sometimes other teams do as well, but Celtic have probably is it bigger than Ibrox?
Celtic Park is bigger than Ibrox, yeah, but
so they have 65 to I think it's 64,000 seats in a stadium, and they're losing each week. These fans on waiting lists for season tickets, and they're being let down this hard by their own club.
They've also got more money than anyone else, so I mean, there are no excuses. I mean, the other thing that's important is it's not a case of he's come in and they're doing just as badly as they were doing before. Even before Martin O'Neill came in, he's come in and they've got worse. So he's got the same players and they got worse. So it's not a case of he's not improved anything. They've got worse. So I can't see how he can claim in any way to be progressing or doing anything with that football club, because he's got the same players that the last guy did.
So now we'll go to the other side of Glasgow. So Rangers had obviously take the 3 points in Old Firm. Trimiti double and Mikey Moore. Do you think Rangers deserve to win Old Firm?
First of all, I listened to it. I was doing a lot at the time. I listened to it, and then I've watched back the highlights. But obviously it's the opposite tale. It's a manager who's inherited what most people would say is a weak squad of players by comparison to most other Rangers teams, and he's managing to get a tune out of them, and he's doing the sensible things. And this is my main manager position at the moment, which is that this 2019, 2020 era philosophy Pep Guardiola nonsense. Usually people who have a go at it, it's just because, maybe they don't understand the systems that they're trying to play. But actually, when you look into it, the idea of a manager coming in, I call them philosophy managers, and they come in and instead of working out what the best thing is for this team that they have and the best style to play and the best way to beat the team that they're playing against, look at this team, where are they weak? Let's try and beat them that way. Instead of that, they come in and say, no, this is the style of football that we are going to play, and I'm going to try and mold my players to my style. It's the opposite of what management, or what I was always told management was, and it's a failure. Whereas Rangers, so that's what Celtic have. Rangers have the opposite. They have a manager who's coming in and he's looking at the players that he's got and he's thinking, what's the best way to try and make them win? As Hibs fans, quite frustratingly watching, a Rangers team that I thought were pretty beatable. We've lost 3 times now, and every single time Rangers have kept a clean sheet. So he's doing something right. Danny Röhl is reasonably sensible manager, and I would say they probably have the best chance to beat Hearts now. If you're looking at either a Celtic or Rangers, you're probably saying Rangers have the upper hand.
The Hearts still top of the league. Yeah, so now we went through from Hearts are still top of the league. Celtic lost again, Hearts won again. You think Hearts can go in shockers and win the league?
Well, can they? Of course they can. They proved that they can. Months ago now. The difference between this Hearts team and other teams that have, done well and got to the top of the league in the Scottish title. I suppose there's actually 3 main differences. The first one being that Celtic and Rangers are terrible. They've never been this bad. Kind of feel for the likes of Aberdeen last season. What would have happened if Celtic and Rangers were quite this bad. The second thing is that they can defend, and that is massive. So many teams start off the season flying, and they either get into the top 2 or they're top of the league for a bit. And the reason is that they're blasting goals in and they're just scoring more than the opposition. This is a team with probably the best forward line so far this season. Shankland, Kizaridis, and Braga. And then on top of that, they can also defend because it's a Derek McInnes team. So that's a really solid team. They were also winning all the big games. Up until they lost that derby, they'd beaten every team that they needed to beat up the top end of the table. They'd won against Celtic and Rangers, both away from home. They'd beaten us in the Tynecastle derby. They got points off Motherwell, a couple of draws. So they looked really good. So yes, they can do it. And I'd say they're now favourites for it. And that's a really weird position to be in. The question is, can they do that? Do they have that mentality that Celtic and Rangers, or particularly Celtic, let's be real, are used to? Being chased. That's a weird position to be in. Hearts aren't used to it. Hibs aren't used to it, that kind of thing. So it's interesting to see. But what about you, right? Here's a question for you. Are Motherwell in a title race?
I think so. That's what I was going to ask you next as well. When it comes to the Steelmen, right, they scrape top 6 or they get top 6 by 5th or 6th most seasons. But this year, they've got the new manager from Motherwell. He's done so well. Mastroianni, I think he is the struggle for other teams. Struggle to take the Mastroianni. Like, he went to AFCON, plays for his country, comes back and scores first game without a doubt in his mind. He just puts it in the corner. It's like
it must have been like later. It must have been on the plane about 2 days earlier.
Exactly.
And then he's really. But if you look at it again, you look at that Motherwell. Askew's really good. He's done amazing things. Him and Derek McInnes will be up for Manager of the Year, Manager of the Season. But if you look at when he was away, they still won. He left the squad. He was out of the team to beat Celtic. So he's got a lot of talent in that squad. I think and St Mirren, they beat St Mirren with Maswini's scoring as well, yeah. But they've got Watt, they've got Just, they've got Said. They get a goal every now and again from Stamatopoulos, and they've got a really good team. Longello, loads of players in that team that I think are real quality. So it'll be I tell you what, this big game this weekend, Hibs against Motherwell, and you'd say Motherwell go into it as favourites. Hibs are the challengers from a couple of points below. It'll be a big challenge because I think it's a weird one, but Hibs actually have got a little bit too predictable. So in a weird way, having had players out recently makes them a little less predictable. How do you deal with Yuan and Clegy instead of Bowie and Boyle? So maybe if players are still out at the weekend, that'll actually be a benefit to Hibs. But that'll be a massive game at the weekend. And it'll be good to see two teams on good form.
So adding on, Maswini said, do you think he will stay at Motherwell? Do you think he's got a move coming?
I think with all these players at Scottish clubs that are doing well at the moment, I think in general there's a real reticence to sell in January. There's a realisation that if you keep until the summer, you're still going to get the same money and you don't have to ruin a season. So I would say the same thing. It's a really good situation to be in, but I would say the same thing for Motherwell as I do for Hibs, which is that if these players are going to leave, Maswini's, Bowie, Mulligan, then they're only going to go for huge amounts of money, like really big money. So the club is willing to sell. Of course they are. Every club is a selling club, except for like about 4 or 5 clubs. Every club is a selling club. But they're only going to accept those bids if they have good money on them. Because as far as I know, I know that Mulligan and Bowie both have long contracts, as does McGrath. But I don't know about Maswini's, but I assume he's on a decent contract. He played last season, but he kept coming off the bench, and it was frustrating me so much. I kept saying to mates, I think he's brilliant. And this is the thing I'm telling everyone, because I feel so vindicated that I was like, I called it last season, but I kept saying when I saw him play against Dundee, came off the bench, I think he's brilliant. And now he's just, he's going to make them a lot of money, and I think he will go. But will he go in the January? I don't know. I think if I was them, I would rather hold on to him, get a good season out of him, and then sell him. Because what, you're telling me if he has a really good rest of the season, the money's not going to be there for them? Of course not.
Yeah, I mean, going on that, Bowie was linked with Wolves. I don't think any will go further with Bowie, but Wolves are willing to offer $5 million for Bowie.
Well, that's big money. And the other thing on that is there'll be a sell-on. See, the thing about if you're looking at clubs that will be able to buy off Hibs, Wolves will be able to buy off Hibs.
Yeah. Could you see a good sell-on?
Oh yeah, no, I could see. I mean, the only thing about Wolves is actually that would maybe be his peak.
Yeah.
You don't know for sure, but that would maybe be his peak. So the next sell-on would maybe be. It may maybe be less, maybe down to the Championship or whatever, but we'd still get a good amount of money. But Hibs are big on the sell-ons. I mean, every club is. St Mirren and Hibs big on sell-ons. So you'd be hoping so. It usually helps us, but then again, you look at the likes of John McGinn and you think, that is a situation that can also happen. We've got a massive sell-on on John McGinn, and it'll never happen because he's just become such a legend at that club that they just want to keep him forever.
Yeah. So other teams are, and obviously the SPFL, would you say this is the best it's been at in terms of fluent football?
Well, I mean, whatever. Or since the Premiership. I always think about the time that I've been watching football. It's one of these things, and it's so weird. Celtic and Rangers fans, understandably, think from a Celtic and Rangers perspective, and the number of Celtic and Rangers fans you hear at the moment saying the league's never been worse, the quality is so dire. It's not that. The quality is not dire. It's that Celtic and Rangers are dire, and that's not an indication of the whole league, because that's the peak of the league. How well could the best Scottish teams do in Europe right now? Probably not as well, because Celtic and Rangers couldn't go and do that. But Hearts would do better than they usually would. Hibs would do better than they usually would, and did. I think it's actually very underrated how well Hibs did, because they got horrible draws. If you look at that, they were a matter of minutes away from getting through against a Lechia Warsaw side who've gone on to be very good. And Midtjylland, look how well they've done in Europe. So that was a good showing. So what I'd say is Celtic and Rangers are much worse than they have been, but the rest of the league, the quality's never been higher, and the entertainment value because of that has never been higher. Motherwell playing brilliant football, attacking, passing football, not just getting the points. Hibs play some really attractive football. St Mirren are a really good team to watch. Maybe less expansive passing football, but still a really enjoyable team to watch. There are loads of teams at the moment, and it feels like anyone can beat anyone for a while. And we're only starting seeing in January the league really pull apart into its groups. Those groups being Livingston on their own, Killie are starting to get cut adrift. Then you've got like the likes of Dundee, who are suddenly putting on a good run of form and are getting pulled up into that group of Dundee United, Aberdeen, Falkirk, who got a really good win against Aberdeen. And then the next group being, Hibs. It's all splitting off into its group, but it's a really exciting league, and it's one of the most entertaining I've watched. It's just the only problem being I've spent the whole season, squeaky bum time, because I need Hearts off the top of the table as a Hibs fan. I'm sure they understand it. They'd feel the same way if it was us, but we're the only people that feel that way. Celtic and Rangers want to win the league and they want it to be them, but they kind of. It's almost as though, as long as it's not one of the other two, it's still interesting. But, everyone else in the league, everyone I talk to, they keep me like, because for Scottish football, But Hibs fans will be the only people that feel anyone but them, and it would be as if, imagine Motherwell were top of the league. We'd be like, this is hilarious, this is glass, this is so different and refreshing to see. If it was Motherwell or Dundee United or... Killie or something like that, we'd probably feel that way, but because it's Hearts, it's slightly different. But it's an exciting league, and I don't, as a Hibs fan, I don't go to any game thinking we're definitely losing this.
I think the only time I ever thought that was when it was what game was it? 2016 Scottish Cup final. I wasn't very happy about that at the start. I was like, oh, we're not winning this. We're not winning this. Rangers are such a strong side. What happens? We win.
That's Hibs culture, though, isn't it? Everyone thinks that their club. Oh, it's so tough being a fan of my club. There is a kind of uniquely Hibs, the kind of down pessimism that I've found about, especially games where we can win. I think being a Hibs fan, you feel more confident going into games against Celtic and Rangers and that than going into games against, I don't know, Killie or lower league teams. The number of times, and the whole cup hoodoo thing, it got to the point at which 10 cup finals, it got to the point, Scottish Cup finals, that is, it got to the point which if you're going to a cup final as a Hibs fan, you had to get it into your head you were going to lose, because otherwise you just feel gutted and disappointed again. The number of times, Hampden has not been a happy place for Hibs fans, so that was maybe just a bit more of a Hibs culture thing, where you go to that cup final against Rangers, and remember that season. Everyone always forgets this because, at the end of the day, it was a great season. We missed out on getting promoted in the playoffs to Falkirk, where after missing out on winning the league because Rangers had won it.
Yeah.
So, and then we also got to the League Cup final that season, lost out to Ross County, and I would say we had a better team than them. But it just felt like a classic Hibs season of, I hate to use the phrase, but bottling it and indeed Hibs in it, as they say. So it just felt like everything was just going to keep doing that forever. And then we got to that Scottish Cup final. It was like, oh, this will just be, this is Hibs in it. So you get to the end of that and you just think there's no way that we can do this. So almost gallows. I remember being almost gallows humour in the pub beforehand. We were in a cricket club near Hampden. Hibs fans had kind of taken it over or whatever, and it was just kind of that pessimism coming through, and then the greatest day of my life. Except, of course, I'm married, so it was definitely that.
So this might be, I don't know what your thoughts are on it, so this could go two ways depending on who asked this one. Do you agree with ultras in football?
Yeah, of course I do. Yeah, absolutely. It was actually funny. The Hibs ultras Block 7 weren't able to get to the game against Killie. I think a bus didn't show up or something like that. And you noticed the difference in the atmosphere. And the thing is, I remember before that took off, the atmospheres were getting a bit to certain away ones. I mean, it's obviously you're going to be up for a derby or a game at Ibrox or Celtic Park or whatever. But the smaller games, they really add to the atmosphere. And I think people like to have a go uh, at young guys enjoying football because it's not the same as when they were young. But when they were going, it wasn't the same as when their parents were young. So I'm not part of ultras. I feel like at 28 now, I'm like, that's, maybe if I was, when I was back when I was like 18 or whatever, I'd have been right up for it and joining in or whatever. But they're a block over from me. And I like the atmosphere that they bring. I have no problem with drums, add a bit of atmosphere, but it's not like we've lost the, reactive atmosphere. And I think clubs should be encouraging it. It's always young guys being passionate about their team. There's always the negative side to these things, but I don't like to focus on that. I like to think these guys are bringing an atmosphere to the game. They're passionate about their club. And usually, if the club embraces them, they're more willing to listen to what the club have to say. And I think over the years, Hibs supporters groups have had different relationships with the club. It's been more positive and more negative. They seem pretty close now. It seems like Hibs are really willing to help them out with, big tifos and stuff like that. And I think it can only be a positive thing. And they're and not just we're talking about on a Premiership level here. I travel all over the country, going to all sorts of different games, and the number of times you see fans have got more into local clubs. It wasn't maybe 10 years ago or whatever. You'd go to like lower league clubs, and there were some clubs where crowds were thinning out, and the only people left were all above a certain age. And it does feel like now you go to these clubs and there is there's often a small group of young fans who are enjoying the game. So I can't complain about it. They're passionate, I'd be right up for it if, back in the day. So, I don't have a problem with them at all.
What's the best fan base in Scotland? Outside those?
I think it's impossible. It's impossible to say because obviously I'm biased. I think what I will say is that Scottish football has great fan culture, and I don't think that I think we like a wee moan. Scottish football fans, we love a moan, and I think we've got to remember that we can be positive about it. We've got a comparatively small nation, and we have the best sported game in Europe per capita. That's just a fact. That's just it. Obviously, a lot of that Celtic and Rangers, but if you look at the number of teams in the league structure, and then you go to, I was at Clydebank a couple of months ago. Lowland League team, and we're getting great support. They're filling out home park.
A tier and a half.
Say that again, mate?
Clydebank filled a tier and a half at Easter Road. That's passion.
Oh, exactly, yeah. That's a Lowland League club. It looks like they're fighting out to get promoted into the SPFL, and good on them. They're a great club in a great area, and Clydebank really has a strong identity. I really like it over at Clydebank. It's not too far from where I am. I try to get it down from time to time. But I think if you look at all of these teams, look at the support Dundee United got in Europe, and if you just think about crowds that come to Easter Road, I think obviously the Hearts crowd that comes for a derby is big. Dundee United bring numbers. Aberdeen always famously very good travel, despite the fact that they are always. It's made as difficult as possible for them for the likes of ScotRail. So I think we've got a great fan culture. Falkirk travel really well, and I tell you what, I'll give you the most underrated. I'll get yours as well. Who the most underrated support? Because I went to Dunfermline a couple of times this season. My family were always more Wraith Rovers fans, but I was over there making a couple of videos. I love the people that work over there; they're nice people, and I got to see Fife Derby and a game against St Johnstone, and I tell you what, that crowd bouncing, and that Scottish Cup tie against Hibs will be good because they make a really good atmosphere at East End Park. So I think they're a really underrated support.
Is it most underrated in general or just of this season?
Go on this season. I'd say most. It would be the most underrated sport when you think about big, good, lively supports.
To be honest, I would actually go with St Johnstone.
Do you know what? It's a decent point. St Johnstone get kind of stereotyped as well, I suppose because they're a family club and their home support isn't great. But when you see some of the travelling support in the Championship, it's been pretty good.
I wouldn't base it off of noise for them. For noise, I would probably base it off of Dunfermline or Falkirk.
Yeah.
But when you look at the stats, St Johnstone in the Prem, they got relegated. They kept their season ticket prices the same, but they sold about 500 more because it's a lower
That
league
isn't impressive.
and they get more like chance of winning a trophy. Fans will want to pay to see that.
Yeah, I mean, I know a Ross County fan, and obviously it's not the way it's panned out. But I remember him getting to the end of the season last season and just saying, obviously, I want to stay up, but I don't mind going to the Championship as much as maybe I could because you get a decent chance of a good season and winning some games. I mean, obviously, hilarious that that's not happened, but I think a lot of people will feel that way. You know, if Livingston fans go down this season, maybe they'll just be like, oh, well, at least we can win some matches again, you know?
Yeah, that's the thing. When it comes to SPFL, teams come up, right? I've been thinking this for a while now. Teams that come up have got Europe in their first season. Dundee United did it last season. Hibs actually did it as well in their first season back up in the Prem. I think we got Europe that year.
Yep, that'd be 16, 17. Yeah, we did.
Livy
There's a lot of teams that there's the league's pretty reasonably open. I mean, think about teams that have been in Europe. St Johnstone have been in Europe. Ross County finished 4th and they just missed out on Europe, I think, that year. There are a lot of teams that have come into the league and finished pretty high with pretty modest budgets. So it's not completely pay to win here.
Who's the most underrated team in the SPFL?
In the whole SPFL?
Or in the general Scotland?
I'm trying to think about teams that I've seen this season. Maybe it would be. Maybe nobody's looking at Partick Thistle at the moment because they're a team that have always been there or thereabouts in terms of getting into playoffs. But they're not. They're not just comfortably in the playoffs. They're closer to St Johnstone than they are to teams below them. Whoever it is, Dunfermline, Ayr United. Arbroath, I think, as well. They're much closer to St Johnstone, and they were for a long time neck and neck with them. I think St Johnstone will go on and win the league, but Partick will be in a very good place, especially to win the playoffs. Because just talking to some people about this, Partick are a team that, if they do finish second, they have that advantage of not having to play the first tie, and then they also will go up against, at the moment, it looks like Killie. And Killie are only in that playoff spot because Livingston are so bad. It's almost by default. So a lot can change between now and then. But I would say if you're looking at teams that nobody's talking about, that maybe they should be, Partick Thistle, they've got a very good chance coming up this year.
Also Motherwell.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people are noticing how good Motherwell are. They score some good goals. They play really well. What do you think the score will be at the weekend? Hibs Motherwell.
This is like predicting an Old Firm in front of like a Rangers and a Celtic fan.
I know.
It could go either way.
I've been jumping about on it.
Because you've got such a strong Motherwell squad, but then you've got such a strong Hibs squad as well. I think if Hibs win and Motherwell do lose, we can go above them.
Yeah, well, that would put us above them.
Hibs will be out for blood. Motherwell will be out.
And also, it's at Easter Road, so don't write Hibs off at all. I mean, if I had to put a bet, I'd say a draw, probably a high-scoring draw, like a 2-2 or something. But you really can see that going either way. But I don't know. I've a good wee feeling about Hibs. I do have a good wee feeling about Hibs going into that game.
I think we will take.
But I mean,
it's going to be a very, very. It's going to be a midfield war.
Big time. How well Mulligan and McGrath are playing will decide that for us. But of course, it's that thing of everyone says a season is fair, and yet we play Motherwell when they're at their absolute best. Hearts played Celtic. Hearts were Celtic's first game under Nancy. Rangers played Celtic under Nancy. Motherwell got to play Celtic under Nancy. Oh. Hibs got Celtic under Martin O'Neill and won't get Celtic again until he's gone. And Hearts will get to play him twice, potentially, because they have a game against them, I think, again later in the month. So, yeah, quite incredible. Frustrating, but I would rather be playing Celtic this weekend than Motherwell, and that's a mental thing to be saying.
That is a Bold statement. Wow.
Well, I mean, I don't think many people would disagree, but it's like it just feels weird because they're Celtic. But I would much rather be playing Celtic than Motherwell this weekend. It looks shocking.
Especially if it's at Easter Road. Celtic's record at Easter Road is not good.
No, we do quite well against them.
20. Oh, two. They won 3 out of the last 21 if you include the game that Martin O'Neill was in charge. Their form at Easter Road is not what you would expect.
No, and we never do well at Celtic Park, but we've got some good results there against Celtic. We really struggle against Rangers now, and by Easter Road, I think we're doing quite well at making Easter Road quite a tough place to visit now. So it was something that maybe other teams were better at than us. Everyone was, talks about Tynecastle, the fans are right on you, all that stuff.
Yeah,
but maybe we've done quite well at making Easter Road a bit more of a fortress.
What else? To be fair, I don't know whether you agree with me this or not. I don't know if what Barry would say about this, but I think when it comes to an atmosphere at a stadium, I think it is also partly down to your stadium announcer.
Aye, of course. Yeah, I mean, big time. They set the vibe.
You've got Barry each week, like Easter Road. In the derby said Easter Road. This is down in Leith. We are live on Sky. Easter Road. This is our arena. This is where we play. Easter Road. Let's get right behind the high bees or something like that. He does it every week.
Yeah, well, he's been working on that for quite a while, and kind of the intros and stuff, one of them songs you want to hear and all that kind of stuff. And
such a dramatic intro. They have such dramatic two songs when the players are coming out.
The only bit of it I always start at the guys. I'm like, why do we? The live on Sky bit actually sometimes gets me because I'm like, see when we're watching a derby and he's like that. Here we are at Easter Road. It's live on Sky. I don't need to know it's live on the telly. I'm here. I'm stood here. I've got it better than the telly. And say live on Sky. That's not the one. Don't advertise the telly. Get everyone down. But no, yeah, they've been tinkering with that for years, and I think they've really got something. And it feels like a lot of the atmospheres that we're getting now are really, really good. And that's what I'm saying is it's everything has to come together. You got to have the announcer on side. And picking the music. I know. I don't know if he necessarily plays the tunes or if someone else is actually inside on the desk playing the tunes. But picking the right music. You've got the fans on side behind the goal. You've got your ultras section working with the club so that the tifos are good, and so that I think you just generate a good feeling. That means the atmosphere is better, and that means when you get your big moments and you get to celebrate them, and you got the likes of a Sunshine on Leith, the whole thing comes together, and you make something special. So you do that with, I mean, really any club. It feels like Motherwell, and I went to Motherwell. I saw them play Hearts. Been to Motherwell a couple of times this season, and I saw them tear Hibs apart inside 25 minutes. It was crazy. But it feels like they're all working together as one. They're all behind the manager. Those famous well boys off to your right when you're in the away stand, right behind the club. So
they have got to be the most. Actually, I would say they're the most underrated ultras because they've either got a tifo every week or they've got a pyro every week, and they don't shut up the whole 90 minutes. No matter what the score is, they're still singing.
There's different vibes at every club. I always think that St Mirren have a good atmosphere because they've got a wee ground. So I suppose, but they've got a pretty big support. I mean, Paisley's a big place, and in terms of they're close enough to Celtic and Rangers that they could just go support them, but they don't. Paisley has a really good local support, and it feels like they have that standoff to your right. It's both one of the loudest and I think they admit this themselves, particularly the far end of that stand to your right is one of the booiest stands ever. They're angry. They're so angry. They love it. They love to have it, boo refs and all sorts, man. I like them. I don't know. There's something I really like about that stand to your right when you're in the away stand.
Away is an absolute iconic time because you've got Cliff Pike and he's like just ignore the language down there. It's just a couple nippy St Mirren fans, and they go so crazy at him. It's funny.
There's a couple of places there are a couple of places that you pick up all sorts on the microphones. Motherwell have a pretty good. I always like. Have you ever been in the main stand at Motherwell? Yeah. Ancient stand. I love an old school stand, but proper old wooden stand. I did the hospitality once, and it's these like tiny padded seats, but they're like creaky wooden padded seats from, oh God knows when. It looks like they're from the 50s or something, but it's a great wee old stand. Wee in its length, because for some reason it's one of those 3/4 length stands. But they get a good wee bit of noise out of them when they're starting to get going. But really, the main attraction of Motherwell is the one off to your right, the one on the opposite side. That's the real noisy one. But there's all sorts of the clubs that you think, just, you know, St Mirren, despite where they are, I suppose because they got that League Cup win. Dundee are starting to really pick up. That's them winning again at Tannadice. It's been ages that they weren't able to do that, and then they do it twice in a row. So all sorts of supports. I think probably if you're looking at if you're trying to build like the noisiest support, a league not based on how quality but on like noise, you're probably not far off this league.
Championship.
Yeah, well, I do love a championship. I love a champion. I love the Friday nights. I love the championship.
That's why I went to the Fife Derby Friday nights under the lights, and were you at the one under the lights about, I think it was October?
That would have been at Starks
Just
Park.
after the one at Starks, yeah. Just after Wraith took it back over Dunfermline, I think it was.
No, I went to East End Park. It was the Dunfermline one.
Yeah, so that was
I saw that one.
Wraith Rovers won it. They took revenge.
That's right, yeah.
This might sound really random. They had a pyro out, obviously. But it wasn't just a pyro. I read online that was actually a gender reveal. It might have been 8 months. It might have been like 5 or 6 months ago, but still pretty cool.
That's so funny. Right, you're like that, right? I'll go to East Stand, right? You go in the West Stand, and I'll light the flare, and that'll be the gender reveal. That's funny. Man, Scottish football is unrivaled. I love it. That's class.
Football is just, when it comes to international as well, you don't really see fights between the fans unless you're like some really, really drunk guy looking for an absolute battering. But when it comes to international football, it brings the country together, but I do not like international football.
No, I mean, I've been much more into it since, I think a lot, since, obviously since Scotland have been going to tournaments, that's really kind of galvanised the country behind Scotland. But also the introduction of the Nations League replacing international friendlies. Which at the time I wasn't sure about, but I tell you what, because I used to hate. You're going on a break for an international friendly, and you're like, I'll pause league football for this. But the introduction of the Nations League, kind of removing most of those international friendlies, has been class. And actually, the only international friendlies that we will get will be really exciting because they'll be the ones in prep for the World Cup in the summer. So. No, I'm pretty behind. I'm pretty behind the Nations League introduction, and I think all of that has just got everyone right behind Scotland as a team. And see, if you look at some of the footage of the celebrations when we qualified were incredible. But I do know that it's not for everyone. You know, some people are our league team only, but I've loved it. I've loved every minute of it.
So this might put you on the spot a little and expose someone else. So obviously you do interviews at games and stuff, like with Eldorado.
I do.
What
yes.
is the craziest fan interaction you've had?
Oh, I mean, you get all sorts. Obviously, there's some stuff there are all sorts of stuff you can't put up, and people when they get right into it, they start, overconfidence can get the best of everyone, but I've been guilty of that just as much as everyone. No, I'd say probably the one that sticks out in my memory, and you can still find it, probably one of our best like performing videos. Scottish Cup final last season, Aberdeen against Celtic. We went to the Aberdeen end because we hadn't spoken to Aberdeen fans in a while. We'd spoken to Celtic fans reasonably recently, so we went around the Aberdeen end and we were interviewing people. And there was this older gent, and he had one of these guys got all the badges, and he was loving life. And we called him the Aberdeen Oracle because I think he literally called the game to a T. And he said he had a bet on it, and I don't know what happened to that man. So I'm sure he enjoyed himself. Maybe he's still out celebrating. I don't know. But he had couple £100 worth he would have won or something. And he had it on the exact correct score, and he also said it would be last minute. So that video went mental just because it was everything that you kind of love about Scottish football. Going into that game, they must have thought they had almost no chance, a lot of these people, but not this guy. He was confident. He thought they could do it, and I don't know. I like that. I like the eccentricity of Scottish football from time to time.
So what? Just to finish on, unless you've got any questions for me after, what is your goal of the week?
Right. I tell you what, because you go first. You go first, and I'll tell you why in a second. There you go.
Well, I've got two there. I would say for goal of the week, it's got to be Yang in the Old Firm. I mean, he's cut out past two defenders. To beat two defenders in an Old Firm, especially like with Rangers level, they're at a solid level of playing football. Beat two defenders and absolutely rocket one in the past Butland. Maybe Butland should be doing more. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure he did do enough. Could it have been saved? I don't know. Second one, I would actually maybe put Chermites there. I mean, he took it round. Obviously, didn't have to beat anyone, but the composure and the accuracy on the shot. Yeah, it might have deflected off the keeper, but it was a brilliant finesse shot round into the corner for Chermite. So that would be my
I thought you were going to go for, so you look at the Motherwell game, I thought you were going to go for the volley, the second goal.
It was a flip.
I think he's going for the other corner, and that's the reason why I was going to let you go first. I was just saying, I think it was a little bit of luck behind it. I mean, obviously, still class to see, rifles off the post and whatnot. But actually, do you know what my favourite goal is? And I think both those goals you mentioned in the Celtic Rangers game are class, and the Yang goal. I do think Butland should be saving that. I don't know what he's doing there, but he absolutely rockets it off the post. My favourite goal, and I don't think many people will agree with me, it's actually the Motherwell first. So they get the ball really from a St Mirren attack. They're very well in their own half and very quickly pass out, and a lovely curved ball through, and Maswinize is off with it. And look, the finish itself, lovely, tucked through the legs and into the corner. I think it's through his legs and into the corner. A really nice finish. But I think the pass is underrated because he's in quite a lot of space. He's in quite a lot of space, so it feels like, oh, maybe it was an easy pass. It's still beautifully placed in front of him. And that's what Motherwell do so well. They attack with pace. And I actually just thought that was a class goal. There are lots of good goals this weekend. I thought Hart's header, Halkett there was a really good header. And
talking about
yeah,
you're saying about the curling for Motherwell there, that was an absolute outstanding ball for Hearts in your signing as well. Yeah,
no, it was. I mean, it was just a really well done goal. But no, I like the Motherwell goal. I actually haven't seen back the Hibs goals, but I remember the first goal was the UN goal, and it was a good wee header. But I'm going to go for that first Motherwell goal, bit out of the blue. Maybe nobody will agree with me, but I just really like how fast it was, and I thought it was a classic Motherwell goal.
So, have you got anything you want to ask me before we finish off?
No, I asked quite a bit there. Just trying to think. No, other than your Motherwell Hibs prediction, that was all I wanted to know. What, in terms of top six, I think most people would say it's going to be Hearts, Celtic, Rangers, Motherwell, Hibs, and then one other. Who would your one other be? Who do you think is going to make up that top six spot?
So you think, what would you say? So top six would be Rangers, Celtic, and not in order, by the way. Rangers, Celtic,
no, not in order. I'm just in the ones that are already up there, being Hearts, Aberdeen, Celtic, Rangers. So at the moment, it's like Hearts, Celtic, Rangers, Hibs, Motherwell, and then probably one other team. I think there's only space for one other team.
Actually, no, I would put Hibs, Hearts, Celtic, Rangers, Motherwell, and Falkirk.
Fair. No, I think fair enough. I think they're really good. I'm going to go Dundee United. I think they're playing poorly at the moment, but I think they'll manage to bring it back. And that's my top six, I think.
Who will take the European place? So
I still fancy Hibs. I don't know. Maybe that's just bias. But I think it might be Hibs.
So I'll
back us. Why not?
Before we finish off, what is your favourite stadium that you've been to and why?
Favourite stadium that I've ever been to? I've done 40 of the 42 now. So A lot to choose from, but I'm going to go Gayfield. I loved visiting Gayfield. Our broth was class. I know, it is the best pie I've ever eaten. Steak and black pudding. Right on the sea, bitterly cold, but a proper old school ground. So I'll go Gayfield.
For me, that's a tough one actually. I've been to a few, like, I forgot, old fashioned type of grounds, but it's got to be Motherwell probably away before they changed it to the 2 tiers. Wait, before.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. The lower tier when you get it is absolutely brilliant. No, it cannot be denied.
Actually, this is what my uncle was saying as well. He's a massive Rangers fan. It looks untidy when you're watching a game on the television or even there, and you see your team with your fans in the top tier, and you've got a completely bottom tier empty. It looks untidy.
It looks terrible.
Wait, you've got it might make it a bit.
Shouldn't be allowed. Bring back the lower tiers. Kilmarnock, Motherwell, sort yourselves out for sure.
But I think Scottish football is the best it's at with fans and players and signings as well. Lyndon Dykes to Hibs. Do you think that will happen?
I don't know. It's interesting now. Other teams looking like they're interested. Charlton really lacking a striker, and they seem interested. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what the January does.